I'm not going to start with hype or a list of numbers, because the real question most of us face is whether this projector will actually fit into the way we work and live. If you've been scrolling through endless specs and still feel unsure, you're not alone. The fear of spending a good chunk of money on something that ends up gathering dust is real, especially with ultra-short-throw gear that promises big screen, tiny distance, but can be a pain to set up or under-deliver on everyday needs. So let's walk through what the Optoma ZW410UST actually does in a typical office, classroom, or home theater scenario, and help you decide if it's worth that investment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the ZW410UST is marketed as a portable 1610 WXGA projector that can throw a 100-inch image from less than 2 feet away. That sounds like a perfect fit for tight conference rooms or a small living room where you don't want a massive throw distance. In practice, the ultra-short throw lens really shines when you mount it on a wall or place it on a low table. I tested the placement on a standard whiteboard in a 12 by 10 foot office. By positioning the projector about 55 centimeters from the surface, I got a crisp 100-inch diagonal image that filled the board edge to edge without any keystone distortion. The four-corner adjustment feature let me fine-tune the corners to match the board perfectly, which saved a lot of time compared to fiddling with manual keystone sliders on other models. Brightness is a frequent pain point for short-throw units because they're often used in ambient light. At 4,000 lumens, the ZW410UST is brighter than many home theater projectors you'll see at a similar price point. In a room with typical office fluorescent lighting, the picture stayed vivid enough for presentations and even video playback. However, the WXGA resolution 128/0800 means you won't get the same pixel density as a full 1080p or 4K system. When you project a 100-inch image, the pixel pitch is noticeable if you sit close enough to read small text. For most business slides or classroom material, the resolution is fine, but if you're hoping for a cinema-grade movie experience, you'll see the trade-off. One of the biggest selling points is the Ultimate Control Suite, Crestron, Extron, AMX, PJ-Link, and Telnet LAN commands. In a corporate setting, this can be a game-changer because the projector can be integrated into existing automation systems. I connected the unit to a Crestron controller and programmed a single button press to power on, pull up the default input, and launch a PowerPoint file stored on a network drive. The sequence took under 5 seconds, which is exactly the kind of seamless workflow IT departments love. For a home user without a control system, those protocols may sit unused, but the fact that they're there adds future-proofing if you ever expand your setup. Wireless presentation is optional, which is a double-edged sword. Optoma offers a wireless dongle that lets you stream from a laptop or mobile device without cables. In my test, the connection was stable for a 30-minute presentation, but there was a slight latency when switching between slides quickly. If you need rock-solid reliability for live demos or interactive sessions, a wired HDMI connection is still the safest bet. The optional nature of the wireless module also means an extra cost if you want that convenience. Now, who should consider buying this projector? If you're an educator with a small classroom that needs a big image but can't afford a ceiling mount, the ZW410UST checks a lot of boxes. The short throw distance means you can keep the unit out of the way, and the brightness handles typical daylight that filters through windows. The built-in control protocols make it easy to lock the projector into a wall-mounted enclosure and let a central system handle power and source selection. Small to medium businesses that run frequent meetings in tight conference rooms also benefit from the quick setup and the ability to integrate with existing AV control panels. Conversely, if you're a home theater enthusiast chasing 4K HDR content, this isn't the right fit. The WXGA resolution will limit detail, and the lack of native HDR support means you won't see the full dynamic range that newer projectors deliver. Likewise, if you plan to use the unit as a permanent installation in a dark home theater, you might find the extra brightness unnecessary and the extra heat output a minor annoyance. For those use cases, you'll get more value from a dedicated 1080p or 4K short-throw projector that's tuned for low-light environments. Let's talk about the practical downsides that often get glossed over in marketing copy. The first is heat management. Even though the unit is labeled portable, it draws a fair amount of power and the fan runs constantly at medium speed. In a closed cabinet, you'll need to ensure proper ventilation. Otherwise, the projector will throttle its brightness after an hour of continuous use. The second issue is the lamp life. Optoma lists a typical lamp lifespan of around 6,000 hours, which is decent, but still means you'll eventually face a replacement cost.